Hello and welcome to Cinema CRAPTCULAS, where we say bad movies just as hard to make as a good one, just a lot easier to make fun of. This is Dave, and with me are my uncrappy co-hosts,
Stephanie
and John.
One man wants the key to control the emotions of humankind and will disregard scientific ethics in order to get it. No, it's not the next Republican presidential candidate. It's Chris Hemsworth in Spiderhead.
Here's the rapid recap to catch you up.
Rapid recap!
In the near future, ambitious Pharma-bro Abnesti, Chris Hemsworth, runs clinical trials of his mood-altering drugs on imprisoned convicts. But this is no ordinary prison. There are no cells, no real rules, no limitations. The only thing a prisoner has to do is take part in Abnesti's drug testing. With his vast array of drugs, Abnesti can control a person's ambitions, making them laugh uncontrollably, love uncontrollably, and fear uncontrollably. But his latest prisoner, Jeff, Miles Teller, is proving to be a little uncontrollable. So it becomes a contest of wills as Abnesti tries to break Jeff, and Jeff tries to break out from this mindfuck known as Spiderhead.
Spiderhead does whatever Spiderhead does. It's the new MCU porn title.
The title I just don't quite understand. I
don't get it either. It's the name of the location or the island.
Yeah, it was the name of, it was from the book or from the story, but it was like, that's just sort of, in this era.
Wait, this was based on a book? This is based on a book.
On a short story, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they were trying to go Bond, like GoldenEye, Spiderhead. I don't know.
But yeah, actually, it does sound like the perfect Bond movie title.
It does.
Yeah. I was just going to say, where did this film come from? What I mean is, was it pitched as a studio film? Did Netflix have it in its pocket? Was Chris Hemsworth friends with the novelist? I have no idea where this film came from.
I was talking to JDH because he had watched the movie, and he basically theorized that Netflix went, we need small films with just two people in a room because it's COVID. So get any script that has just two people in a room and we'll film it. And they got Spiderhead.
That seems accurate.
Well, Joseph Kosinski's done a pretty good job with, I think, working in the science fiction realm. He did Oblivion, which I thought was actually pretty good. And he seems to be an efficient director, but this one, wow.
I think he tripped up on this one because spectacularly, this movie is one of those movies where everything that the story you want to see must have ended up on the editing floor. And then everything else, it's like all the moments you don't care about, we're like, hey, let's put it in the movie and see what happens, see if it works. And
they should call this movie Deleted Scene, the movie.
They should.
Well, I feel like they were just trying to, here's, in their defense, there probably wasn't much to work with. It was a short story. And they were like, well, how much do we want to build in? And it's COVID.
Here's the thing, the idea, it wasn't until the third act, 90 minutes in, where I was like, I guess that's near the end of the movie.
It's a short movie.
75 minutes in.
It's a short movie.
Where I was like, oh, I get what this movie is. It's a contest of wills between these two people during this experiment. And I feel like the first half of the movie, somehow the tone, the moments that were shown did not add up to what the movie wanted to be about. It's just very odd to me. There's a whole montage, a 10-minute sequence of Miles Teller and another subject being injected with a love drug, and then they would just have sex. So I guess to Chris Hemsworth or Abnesti, love is fucking, not really just love, because the idea was let's make a love drug. He's in with one woman, and then Miles Teller's is in with another woman, and then he's in with literally looks like the guy who played Croc in Killer Croc in that DC movie.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
He doesn't look like Killer Croc. He looks like he's like the mountain or whatever from Game of Thrones, right?
But size-wise, he was just monstrous, and then he was tatted up.
Let's talk about, so I was a little confused. So for the people who are watching, yes, we're going to go into spoiler territory. Why am I saying people watching? People who are listening to us and who haven't watched it. we're going to go into like spoiler territory, so prepare yourselves to be spoiled. But there's really not that much. I mean, there is spoiler stuff, but
this is cinema CRAPTCULAS, Stephanie. You do know that.
Yes, and they should know it too. But yeah, like so basically Miles Teller is, he's a criminal because he drove drunk and killed his brother and his wife. And it's like the big twist is that it wasn't just his best friend. It wasn't just his best friend, it was also his lady. And the whole time you think that he, like, maybe she they're estranged because he's been, indicted for these crimes or, and that kind of thing. Yeah. But it turns out she's actually dead. Meanwhile, he's fostering a relationship.
And they do. That's right, he is. They do they hint that she might be alive because he keeps calling her phone to leave a message. Yeah. To apologize, and he's filled up her phone. So you have this. They guide you into thinking that she's alive.
And honestly, that's a trope.
Well, at the same time, he's in love with another woman in the prison.
Yes, who is alive.
Who is alive. So he's kind of moved on and kind of has not.
Yeah.
Well, that trope with the phone, I think we need to retire. They used it in Captain America Civil War with Baron Zemo, where he keeps calling and leaving message, and then you find out that she's dead. It's like, so whenever I see someone on the phone calling like their loved one, I'm assuming, oh, she's dead.
Was Baron Zemo's phone call as epic as Jeff's in this, where he's literally standing on a mountaintop and
no,
you get
he's standing above the bodies of dead Russians and other people, but I digress. I think that there were some very interesting psychological elements that inspired probably the short story, I'm guessing, and this film that go back to those old psychology films from the 1950s and 60s, with the Skinner box where, on one side, the person has to sit at the control saying, you have to give the person on the other side electric shocks. And on the other side, no one's getting shocks. They're just a guy's making sounds. And the whole concept is the person gets and the woman's like, I'm not doing that. And then, but you have to. So you sort of test people's willingness to do that. And of course, Bill Murray's jokes about it in Ghostbusters. Which would have been funnier if this film had either gone really satirically funny or really dark. I felt this film, probably because of Chris Hemsworth's participation, felt almost a little too safe. Even as twisted as it got, I think it was very safe. What do you guys think?
It kind of like walked like a razor's edge. I mean, like it kind of teetered into absurdity, especially towards the back, like the third act, where it turns into like a video game, where they have to keep fighting bosses. Like, it was just sort of strange. Like, you have, I mean, the gist of it is so simple. Like, this movie is basically about, like you said, a battle of wills between Jeff and Abnesti. And it turns out that Chris Hemsworth's character hasn't been telling the truth about anything, which we have to talk about because I am so confused about that. But he wasn't telling the truth about what the experiments were actually about. Somebody got killed. It was a bad situation, and now Jeff's trying to escape with his new lady love, played by Jurnee Smollett, and they run through the prison, and Chris Hemsworth comes on the PA and is like, we have a couple of people who are trying to escape and they're going to ruin this great thing we have going. So do you want to stop them or do you want to go back to prison? Yeah. Everyone's like, oh shit, we have to stop them. So then they run into these boss levels of like all the people we've met.
Yeah, all the different prisoners.
Yeah, but they escape, of course.
Like, what was it about Abnesti's that confused or frustrated you, Steph? You said we have to talk about.
So the big reveal is that throughout the movie we see Chris Hemsworth's character Abnesti testing his subjects, testing the prisoners there with a variety of drugs that he has named different things, like was it like N16 or something like that, and
B5.
And at the twist, one of the first twists, Miles Teller discovers that these drugs are just named after a bingo card. Like, you know how a bingo card has like N12, whatever it is.
And B6, which was a big...
Yeah, which I didn't understand. And I was sort of like, okay, so the reveal is that even though they have all these drugs, like the love drug and the scary drug and the drug that makes you afraid of everything, drug. B6 is the one that he's like, that's the big tuna, where that's the one that is OBDX, which is essentially the thing that makes all of this possible, because once the prisoners are injected with that unknowingly, they will do whatever Chris Hemsworth tells them to do, including have sex with people, fall in love with people, I guess be afraid of staplers, eat until they're sick.
Yeah.
You know, like what I was confused about how B6 ended up in the mix. If those other drugs, were those other drugs real?
It seems like you only need obedience.
I'm going to admit I was confused as well and didn't bother to rewind to figure it out. What I thought it was B6 was the one he really wanted to get to work. That's the one that would have made him a gazillionaire. All the other ones worked, but if he could get B6 to work, it was almost like, basically with the love drug, he was trying to see if the love drug would sustain emotions after the initial effects of the drug wore off. And I think if B6 worked, it would have maintained that because you were already influenced. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, what are you talking about?
What?
That makes no
I think
sense.
it would have been more fun if instead of bingo, it was Battleship, but that's just me. And I think that the experiments,
You suck my dark.
obviously the fun of the film, in a way, the sick fun, is seeing, these people under the influence of these drugs. And obviously before the big reveal that they're taking via B6, which compels them to do anything, they have to have permission. So, drip on, like, okay, drip on. That means they acquiesce. Acknowledge. So that is sort of the key, because Abnesti's big, sort of 21st century prison is there are no rules, there are no borders, there's no bars. Everybody is free to do, but obviously you go back to the big house if you don't comply with the program. But everybody lives in these nice rooms, and they have communal kitchens with knives and fresh organic food and espresso, like the best espresso. Yet they know they're going to have to go into a glass room watched by Frankenstein and Igor, and maybe have to screw each other. And Jeff is the one who's kind of been through it the most, so he kind of knows what everybody else is in for, which creates the moral dilemma.
Except he doesn't know what everyone else is in for.
No, because he had the dark flux. He had the sex one. I mean, it seems like he was the one that was previewing it all, right?
I don't know.
He did definitely have all of them. I don't know what his... I feel like he was the only... he's kind of like the chosen one, the reluctant hero, who's the only one who's kind of fighting Abnesti. And it's that, like... It's that conflict that gets Abnesti to want to really break him. I mean, when you look at Chris Hemsworth's character, he is a vile dick.
Listen to me, Lizzie. Listen. Deep breaths. Everything's going to be fine. For the record, can you tell us what you're so afraid of?
The Verbalus isn't doing shit.
Yeah. This one's a goodie. Phobica. You make people afraid of things that are bad for them.
What, like gluten?
Yeah, or thinking too much.
He's like a narcissist. He's a sociopath. He doesn't care about anybody except himself and his tests.
And he's a
He
junkie.
lies. And he's a
he
junkie.
Takes all these like massive hits of like his love mectin or whatever. What is that stuff called?
By himself, by the way. He takes it by himself, by the way, which is really creepy. He takes a love drug to just lie there and be in love with himself, with the room, with his teddy bear. We don't know.
We don't know.
I think that what do you think about the casting of Chris Hemsworth? Do you think that helped? Certainly it helped sell the film with Netflix, but do you think it made the film, particularly that character, work because he is charming, he is physically attractive, he is able to sort of wink people probably into things? Or do you think a stronger actor might have done more with the part?
I thought he was fine in the role because it was sort of like, I mean, it's Chris Hemsworth, first of all. It's great to look at him. He is, like he can do smarmy pretty well.
Yeah.
I think about like, an alternative to him would have been like Oscar Isaac, but we kind of already saw that like in Ex Machina, like the crazed, scientist who's after his own, gain. But like, and he has like a more malevolent presence, I guess, that he can turn on.
Yes.
But I think that Chris Hemsworth, his malevolence comes from his like, just cluelessness, like obliviousness to the suffering of others, because why would he care? He's so tall and blonde and handsome, like.
Well, you know,
Why
there
does it
is.
matter?
I hate to bring up the N-word, and my N-word, I mean the German,
God, I hope, please,
the,
God.
the German
The
N-word.
hell?
I think he looks very Aryan. These are the types of experiments you would assume at a Nazi camp. And I don't know if they were trying to making some sort of parallels between the experiments that they did on prisoners.
I went back to the psychological tests done in the 60s or 70s, I think 70s, about prison guards and prisoners.
The Stanford
And they
experiment.
took a group of...
The
Pardon?
Stanford experiment.
Yes.
You mean you don't know
And
that?
I don't know names. I didn't want to bring up the S word. So,
But can I bring up the
basically,
other
but
N-word?
they-
Netflix.
Well,
That's a mic drop right there.
So they took a bunch of civilians and they said randomly, your guards, your prisoners, and they just kind of reenacted a prison, and the people naturally fell into this kind of like dominus passive kind of thing where the guards would abuse the prisoners, even though because they had power over them. And that's the kind of experiment I was thinking it was. And what would have been an awesome twist at the very end, you find out the whole time there's someone watching Abnesti who had assigned him this position and had assigned the other people their position and recreated the Stanford experiment to the nth degree.
That's
bringing
cool.
it back to the end.
I like that premise. I actually thought that maybe Abnesti was one of the prisoners. That we're going to find out that that like one of the guards comes in who's like, "Okay, Abnesti, you can go back to your cell," or like, "What have you done? This is not what you're gonna rot for this." I don't know. I thought,
you're gonna.
So it's like
Can you imagine his pitch meeting at the prison board? Going, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a lot of drugs, and see if I can make them do stuff.
Yeah,
They're like, okay.
yeah, because this is a valid question. Because I was thinking, who allowed him to do this? Like one of the multiple twists. Because again, we keep talking about what a twist, but like one of those twists was that Jeff discovered that Abnesti had been lying about the company, or like the board is directing him.
Yeah.
The board is telling him he has to do these experiments. The board is suggesting this. The board is threatening to send Miles Teller back to, Supermax or whatever it is that he has to go to, state. But it turns out that that's all a lie, that it's all just Abnesti's company, and there is no board. There is no conversation happening between him and some greater power. It's all coming from Chris Hemsworth. And I was kind of confused about that too, where I was like, wait, then how did he, he kept talking about how people they passed the tests, they, applied to the program, they passed the test, they got in, and now they're subjected to these experimentations. But I'm like, who let Chris Hemsworth just show up and be like, I'm going to take these prisoners?
Yeah, these are the people I'm taking. And the other thing is, why is there no oversight from any kind of governmental thing? Because even if it was the army, they'd be like, look, this guy's... Because at the end, Abnesti goes to Jeff, oh, by the way, you were freed 7 months ago, and you could have just walked out and you didn't. And they're like, how's he supposed to know?
How is he supposed to know?
And why isn't there someone showing up like Jeff's lawyer going, hey, he's 7 months overdue for being out on the street. What's going on
his
here?
parole officer? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's somebody, the judge, anyone. Which, when you think about it, you're like, this is absolutely what happened, because no one does anything unless someone goes, hey, you need to do that thing.
Yeah, he would have fallen through the cracks for sure.
Yeah, he would totally fall.
The lawyer's like, hey, I haven't gotten my check. Everybody figure out what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
well, this was a film that I was trying to find. What is the tone as I'm watching it? Like, is it supposed to be a thriller? Is it supposed to be a little bit of a dark comedy? Is it supposed to veer into horror? Or is it that sci-fi kind of... I think there was a little bit of Kosinski wanting to bring in his 70s sci-fi, probably a little bit of Kubrick here and there. But I just felt like I couldn't get a read on the tone. I think we've talked about this. Like that happens a lot with these Netflix films. They seem to be almost kind of to the point where they would be maybe a theatrical experience. And I mean like a good movie. But I feel like this film just I don't know. Even while they were filming it, the actors were probably like, how much am I supposed to really get into this emotionally? Some of the actors, like, you know, you could see like the girl really playing fearful of the stapler, or when the one girl gets the Darkenflox and she really starts to freak out and things go bad for her. But I just felt like the actors probably, as much as the director, were like, weren't sure what we were making, you know?
Yeah, it goes completely gonzo at the end.
I mean, like the very last image is they're escaping, and Chris Hemsworth, they juxtapose it with them just kind of giggling and like, well, we're free. No, you're not free. You're escaped convicts. Oh, wait, I guess you were free.
Well, no, they're free.
Right.
So they just have to call their lawyer.
They are free.
Right. And then maybe they'll win a big settlement.
Get that shit
But then
cleared
they
up.
juxtapose it with Chris Hemsworth, who is like, I remember he gets like overdosed with everything, because the thing in his back gets messed up with all the vials. So he's basically
mini box,
and that was kind of fun for him to play, because he's basically on the radio talking to the tower or wherever he's flying to, and he's got every emotion going through him. And I think he did a good job of playing paranoid, love, Darkenflox, all the vitamins.
You jumped through 5 subjects I had something to say about in every one of them.
Well, now let's save time.
You went from what is the tone of this to the end, and I'm like, wait.
Well, I was looking at my watch.
I have
Dave,
something to say.
And, you know, I gotta hit the
You
gym.
gotta go.
Yeah, it was good seeing you. Hey, Craptaculars, we'll be right back.
Hey you guys, this is Tara, and boy oh boy do I wish I was about to talk to you about some super cool product or like a neat movie coming out, but I'm not, because America. Here at Cinema CRAPTCULAS, we recognize that the medical privacy rights of millions of American women are no longer protected, and that safe and affordable reproductive care will not be accessible to women in every state. Each month, we'll share a podcast or organization that helps highlight and support women's reproductive rights and access to safe health care.
And this is John to tell you that this month we'd like to highlight WRAP, which stands for Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. WRAP is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that helps bridge the financial gap for disadvantaged people who seek an abortion or emergency contraceptives. You can find more information and donate at WRAP.org. That's WRRAP.org. Thank you. And now, back to the show.
About the tone, I'm sorry, like, first of all, the thing on his back, basically the drugs are like in vials on a machine, and like some kind of app-driven machine that is right on your lower back, right above your tailbone. And this thing is like 3 inches wide by like an inch thick or inch and a half thick. I can't think of a worse place to put that than in your lower back. Like, couldn't they have put it like on your side, on your arm? Like they have these kind of things that put drugs into your bodies automatically, but none of it is ever on your lower back. And that's how the lady got killed, because she smashes it and it ejects everything into her.
She backs into
and
a
she
wall.
Freaks out.
Like she moves backwards too fast and smashes into a wall, and then it breaks the box. And it's like, it's a bad engineering choice.
It's a really bad placement.
Yes.
And then tonally, I really thought that, like, Miles, what's his name? It's not Miles Davis. Miles Teller, and was in one movie tonally. He was in The Thriller. And then Chris Hemsworth was in another movie tonally. He was in that kind of like that dark sci-fi, dark comedy. And it just like, they just did not mesh at all. And the whole movie, this is a 2-person play, essentially. Mm-hmm. And the whole movie hinges on those two. And it just was fascinating that they just didn't find the right tone, the right space.
Dave, I'd like to see this on the stage. I mean, meaning that I think it could be a good play. I think that absolutely. Dave, why don't you rewrite it? Get the rights to the novel, rewrite it as a play, and you can perform it in the theater of note.
I'll do it as a one-man play.
Yeah,
Dave, Spiderhead.
Dave is Spiderhead.
Spiderhead.
Spiderhead, turn off the box.
Yeah, turn off the
I did like some of the bits, like, after Miles Teller had to have sex with a girl, they cut to, not immediately, but they cut to him across from the big tatted dude, and he's like, come on!
Everybody's going to be, hooking up.
And then Hemsworth chimes in, no, don't worry, guys, no romantic novels today.
Did they give him the love drug? Him and the big tatted
No,
guy?
that scene was so that Hannah, or Heather, the woman who ends up killing herself, Heather can determine who gets the dose of dark influx. Because this is, again, part of the experiment where they need to see if the love drug had any residual effects. So we have to then presume that Heather hooked up with both of them with the love drug.
I see.
Because of Chris Hemsworth. It's just so...
Because of Chris Hemsworth.
I'm a little confused. He was doing multiple experiments, but the B6 experiment was always underway. The B6 experiment was always there, no matter which drug they were administered, because he wanted to see whether or not the B6 would allow them.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. See, this is why I don't mean to be. I'm not trying to purposely be dumb about this. I'm just.
Oh, I know you're never purposefully dumb.
It's never my fault.
Sounds like it. That looks like an Onion ad. Like Netflix movie makes another person feel dumb, and they're not sure if it's the film or them. No, but I think there's a good premise there with app-based drugs gone awry. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen more. Maybe you guys are more into the horror genres, but I could see that being like a plot device because, diabetics we've talked about, they have their devices that are, I think they're hooked up to their phones where they can monitor their blood sugar and distribute insulin, and there might be others. But you could really get into some scary territories with people who hack into people's phones and these types of apps. Because I think this film actually is very prescient. I think there will be such administrative, is that the word, devices. Maybe not in the lower back, Dave. But I think there will be stuff like that.
Just bad placement for the thing.
If there isn't already. I'm sure there's parts of Europe that already have these kinds of things. Seems like something that they do.
I feel like it's something you would have to wear. It would be like a thing that plugs directly into your bloodstream. Like your vein, and then you're good to go. Quick, develop that now.
Done. Here you go.
We will work from a new location, which I will call Spider Butt.
Is that the sequel?
The sequel.
Dave, you remember texting us saying this movie is an hour 43?
Yeah. I said, well, this movie, it's an hour and 43 minutes.
That was probably 20 minutes too much. But no, literally, they did not have enough movie to make a movie.
Yeah, how much filler do you think they put in there? What were the filler scenes?
I think we watched the filler scenes. Where's the movie?
The love drug. Kind of a little bit the boss battle at the end where they're just trying to escape the prison. And it was like, oh, we need an action scene. Okay, the prisoners
They run into each prisoner only the prisoners we've met, not the 200 other people we haven't met.
and there's that one guy who was on eats a lot, the drug, I guess, because he just kept eating. And at the end of the movie, they run into him, and he's like, I'm going to stop you. And they're like, hey, there's, barbecue down in the kitchen. And he's like, F you guys, I'm going to the kitchen.
He didn't do that. She gave him the keys to the pantry.
Right? So he could go eat. He's the only one who continuously did whatever it was we originally met him.
Shouldn't he have been a bit larger, too?
The girl who had sex with Miles wasn't fucking other people.
She was shitfinger.
In the hallway.
She was shitfinger, though.
Oh, yeah.
I missed the origin story to Shitfinger.
I didn't know if we bring that up.
But then when you see her again at the end, she just has a shit finger.
It's all over her hands, and she literally is like, It was I was like, this is
she's just trying to touch him.
It's like a cartoon now.
It's shit fist and shit hand. I don't want to see that origin story.
No, I mean they mention it briefly, but then it's like this is what when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is becoming Crank. This is becoming a zany cartoon world.
Yes, it was where the villains each have their own
superpower
thing.
Peel back the curtain and there's Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O.
Well, they even had the guy who was the first prisoner that we ever meet, and he's supposed to be like, he switched with Miles Teller to do cleanup or whatever. I can't remember what it was. He uses the vacuum cleaner that we've seen him using, a couple of times, or maybe the mop or whatever. But like, he fights them with the vacuum cleaner, and I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely what we've descended into hell. Like, this is now.
I think the film needed either another act that would be more like Westworld, where once they leave, there's a whole other sort of battlefield that the two is Jeff and I forget her name, the couple, that they get out to. And I don't know if it's an extension of Spiderhead, or maybe it's like, Mothhead. It's even, nastier. But I felt like the film could have been a little longer, and there could have been just maybe a little higher level of crazy. And then there's or they get hooked up to a whole, Hemsworth fights back by having this whole other level of drugs we hadn't seen before, like C5, and then it gets wacko.
That would be wild.
Or they get out and they find out his drugs are like the shit, and everyone has them now. And everyone's attached to these drugs, and they're like, what is happening? The whole world is attached to these drugs.
That's very 70s.
Yeah,
very
right?
70s
sci-fi.
Like,
you did it! God damn it!
Yeah. You did it. It's
like that Family Guy episode where like every 70s sci-fi film, I don't know if you remember.
It's like a bad twist.
Yeah. like Logan's Run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, were we not satisfied with Chris Hemsworth being so emotional that he crashed his plane into the mountain, thinking it was like a beautiful sunset?
Now we've jumped back into that hoop that I jumped through.
Yeah, that Dave.
Yeah, like, now it's the final hoop.
I wasn't satisfied with his ending. I really wanted Miles Teller to push him off a cliff or something.
I guess they were trying to go for like the poetic justice ending, where it's like, oh, he's now having the thing happen to him.
But at the end he's crying. It's all so beautiful. Like, he actually has a very peaceful. He actually gets off very easy.
Pretty easily.
He's kind of, he's all like looking at this mountain going, it's beautiful. Bam. Blap.
Yeah.
And it literally like explodes. Like, Miles Teller and Journey Smollett are like in the speedboat, and it just explodes behind them, and they're like, oh.
And then meanwhile, the police are coming.
With the intern guy. I'm sorry, he was not. He was an employee, and he was
an
the one who helped them. Yeah, helped them escape.
Yeah. He was Igor, basically, with the conscience.
Igor, yeah.
And his character
he had the conscience.
Was not very well developed. He had moments where you could see Jeff saying, "You got to stop this. You're the one with the moral voice." And I'm like, okay, so I guess he called the cops. That was it.
Yeah, that was all he had to do. Go call the cops, and the cops took forever as usual.
He also switched over the drugs in Abnesti's back from whatever was like love potion number 9 to Dark and Flux. And then he also gave Miles like control of the app to control Abnesti's drugs, which is, if I was holding a phone that controlled drugs to my back, I would not be able to hand that phone to anyone. I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna have to get a different app for the other people's apps.
It has to be something that only I control.
Yeah.
Just the mere fact that like the battery could die on your phone. I wouldn't want anybody to have access to that.
I get upset if someone's holding my phone and I get a text message. I'm like, give me that back.
You guys just reminded me that there was a great theme, or I don't know if it was a theme or what, but we did not talk about how Abnesti is like a yacht rock fanatic. Like, he is into like every needle drop in this movie was like Hall & Oates or Steely Dan.
Supertramp.
Herb Alpert.
Wait, did you say yacht
the
rock?
Soundtrack was the best thing of this movie.
I did say yacht. Tell me, listen, John. You are prime yacht rock audience.
I get it.
You are a man of a certain age. And apparently this is the music, the light FM kind of AM gold soundtrack to your retiree life on your yacht. When you have like a cute young thing who's below decks and a martini glass, a martini glass or a bourbon snifter in one hand. And you walk around in a robe.
I love that that rich people are going to listen to Supertramp, and B, that you would assume that I might be a rich person. So I'm very much flattered and offended at the same time.
I'm not saying that flattered and offended. I'm not saying that you are that. I'm just saying that you aspire.
If I had the money, I could aspire to that. And no, the
and you
soundtrack
listen to this music.
The soundtrack did it took because first of all I recognized every song.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that like Hemsworth's young audience, like the ones under 30, Miles Teller's fans, are like, what is this? What is this?
No. This is totally in the wheelhouse of James Gunn, Taika Waititi. It's that 70s rock as a soundtrack.
Yes.
Of course, we all remember these songs because
they were on the radio,
age appropriate. But these are like rediscovering songs that were really cool and exposing them again.
Well, Tarantino did that all the time. It was Tarantino.
That's exactly. Yeah, you guys are
Tarantino.
right on.
Yeah.
But this is also kind of it was a strange choice because Chris Hemsworth is not. I think he's my age, and we know those songs, but we didn't come of age with those songs. So like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, is this the future? Like, like. I didn't get that.
The future is 1980.
He had a Time Life subscription to 70s rock classics. And that's all he could listen to.
It's not just 70s rock, though. Let's be clear. It's very much like light FM, almost getting close to smooth jazz. It's not smooth jazz, though, because,
it's one oboe away from smooth jazz.
It's the music that you hear at the dentist office that has lyrics that was pop.
They've probably done studies that say that the hippocampus actually dials in like a little bit of dopamine when this song is played right as the drill's about to hit the nerve of your gum. I would like to commend Netflix for the timing of this movie because it's right after Top Gun Maverick with Miles Teller and right before Thor: Love and Thunder with Chris Hemsworth. So in terms of just their release, and they don't have to compete with movies. They don't have to compete at the box office. They can like look at the movie schedule and go, "Oh, that's coming out. This has got this person." Boom. And they got huge ratings, right? I mean, they always get like huge ratings with their movies now if it's got like
I don't know. I didn't look it up, but did you see that did they advertise? I thought they were super secretive about that stuff.
Well, they're secretive how long people actually watch the film. Like 15 minutes in, if people turn it off, they're not going to give that out.
Yeah. You know, if they started and get to the first credit, we count that as a watch.
They also don't count.
Should we rate this?
Cinema CRAPTCULAS ratings.
Okay, we have a 3-tiered rating scale here at Cinema CRAPTCULAS. The top Cinema CRAPTCULAS gave me all the feels.
Oh, yay. It's just like you're on Lovermectin, or I keep calling it that. I don't know what it was.
You're listening to Hall & Oates.
It works. The second one is just CRAPTCULAS. It's the B6 treatment. Wouldn't normally watch, but I will.
You don't know why.
And then the lower tier, utter crap, better to OD on Dark and Flux.
Bad news.
Bad news. I'm going to be quick about it. I give this a CRAPTCULAS. I normally wouldn't watch, but I will. The premise is so interesting, but it goes off course of that. But still, if it's a Sunday afternoon, I have nothing else to do. Their performances are kind of fun. It's kind of an interesting movie to watch, but ultimately, it's not something to run out and go see. In the
Netflix theater of your home.
I ran out of breath.
Or on the bus with your phone.
Yes, yeah. Maybe that should be what CRAPTCULAS is. On the bus with your phone, perfect movie.
I think we should make that an assignment for ourselves. Is the next film we review, we have to specifically watch it on our phones.
Oh, I already did that. I did that last night. That was what I was going to say. Like, Netflix also doesn't measure like how quickly somebody watches it. Like, because I had it on double speed.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I didn't know you could do that?
You can.
I didn't know that. All right, then we need to
I
shake
think
it up.
only on certain devices.
Then we have to each of us gets to pick where the person watches it on their phone. So I'm assigned to Dave. I tell him where he has to go, and so on. And you have to go to where we say, whether it's the bathroom or in the aisle at the grocery store.
That seems dangerous. Why would you?
It seems in the middle of the freeway while you're driving home.
watch it in the car.
It was opening night of the Fast and the Furious movie, and I was in downtown Detroit, sitting in the middle row with the volume
in the middle
up.
of the movie.
With the volume up.
In the middle of... I was in the middle of Westfield Century City. In a screening. Sorry. I would also give it the same rating that Dave gave. CRAPTCULAS, middle rating. The B6 treatment, I wouldn't normally watch it.
B6.
Obviously, but I did for some reason. And I don't know why. I mean, you guys must have had some sort of control over my emotions with this, because I did it. Even though I was begrudging, it was a begrudging activity. I did watch it, and I watched it all the way through, and it actually kind of sucked me in a little bit. It didn't lose me until that third act, where I was telling you guys about how it suddenly became like a video game, and the reactions were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was like, okay, is this this is devolving into zaniness that I didn't know would actually happen. And then Chris Hemsworth falls in love with the mountain and crashes into it. I was like, okay, well.
I think that's the log line of the movie right there. Chris Hemsworth controls people with drugs, falls in love with the mountain, and crashes into it.
Pretty spot on. But I was entertained.
He's flying. He's going, look, I'm going to be Miles Teller's career.
No. Oh my God. Yeah, so I would definitely give it that medium rating. It was fine. Like it just, it kind of fell off. That was it.
Well, it's a hat trick, because I will also give it a CRAPTCULAS B6. I wouldn't, go out of my way to watch it, but I will if it's on. I agree with everything you guys said. I think that, for people who like 70s sci-fi, like Ex Machina, I think was superior, but this falls into that realm. You're going to see Chris Hemsworth's, charming mug as a thumbnail on your Netflix. You're going to probably click on it, or Miles Teller or whoever.
If you just watch Top Gun Maverick. And you're
right, yeah. I mean, they totally tailor the algorithm as to what's going on in the new... You see that with other movies on there. Like, they'll, if some actor has a film out, all of a sudden, even if it is like a supporting role in that film, you'll see them as the hero thumbnail on the Netflix menu, which is very clever. I was disappointed. I think I wanted it to be either more scarier, like a Blumhouse psycho thriller. If the guys who did The Invisible Man, if those guys had gotten a hold of this project, it probably would have been could have been unnerving.
Like a James Wan joint.
Yeah, but I think the premise is kind of interesting. Stephanie stole my line too, because I was going to say that, Dave is amnesty for all of Cinema CRAPTCULAS. All of us are under Dave's will to watch this stuff.
Yeah, I was like, well, I don't really want to watch this.
You're the one who suggested this one.
What? No, I didn't. Did I? Oh.
Well, you sent the trailer. If you're sending me a trailer, you're suggesting a movie to watch.
Oh, no, I'm my own worst enemy.
We need to figure out then who gets the Darkenflux in this situation.
Oh, yeah.
Dave or John?
John.
Oh,
wait, you're out of the running?
Yeah, I am guilt-free here. I'm the one who was the prisoner.
As long as I'm not given the love one with Dave, I think I'll be okay. That would compromise.
You don't know what you're missing out. Don't knock it till you tried it, a lot of people would say. A lot of people would say.
We'd have to be in love over Zoom, so it would be a little boring.
I'm trying to say that...
That would have been an interesting experiment. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us on the Cinema CRAPTCULAS journey. This is Dave, and ever present with me are...
Stephanie.
And John.
And remember, a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one. It's just a lot easier to make fun of.
Acknowledge. Do you acknowledge?
Acknowledge.
Drip on.
Acknowledge.
Thanks again to you, our amazing CRAPTCULAS audience, for listening and supporting our podcast. Remember to tell your friends to listen and subscribe to Cinema CRAPTCULAS on whatever pod they choose, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, etc. Oh, and don't forget to rate and review our show. The more stars in that rating, the better, The Cinema CRAPTCULAS channel is a heck of a crappy deal because it's free and you get all of our weekly shows, which includes B-Sides with Adam, Dave, and Tara, The Expanded Universe with the Geeks, John H., Doc, and S'more, and Real Debates with Dave, Adam, JDH, and some surprise guests. Oh, and of course, our flagship Cinema CRAPTCULAS with Dave, John, and Stephanie. And be sure to follow us on Facebook as well as at CRAPTCULAS on Twitter and Instagram, and find more content at cinemacraptaculus.com.